Has this ever happened to you? You hear a sick idea in your head, rush to your DAW, create a melody, maybe even a drop, and then boom, you hit a wall. You try making an intro or a verse, but nothing really feels right, so you keep listening to those same 8 bars over and over again, hoping something clicks, until eventually you just close the project. This happened to me so many times I can't even count. I'd have these great ideas, but I couldn't build around it and transform them into full songs. But every now and then something weird would happen. I'd start a track, and for some reason, everything would just flow so easily. The structure made sense, the arrangement came together fast, and I'd actually finished the project. And so I started asking myself, what is the difference between the projects that you never finish versus the projects that you finish effortlessly? And could I reverse engineer that process and make it repeatable for every single track I make? Turns out you can. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do that so that you can finish all of your tracks. Let's get into it. So before we get into anything else, we need an actual idea in our DAW, because this is just an empty project right here. So really, we want to just rapid fire ideas so we can get inspired as fast as possible. And with that being said, I have a stopwatch here. I'm just going to time myself on how long this is going to take, because why not? I'm going to start this in 3, 2, 1. Now, let's go. So first thing I want to do is get this to 133 BPM. Why not? And then get a serum. So we'll make some type of pluck or something. Yeah, that's fine. And make this a little bit more pleasant to listen to with the unison. Cool. Let's get a melody down. Maybe start on E. So I'm mapping out the rhythm first. I'm just kind of going where the melody's taking me. So boom, 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 boom. Cool. Then let's copy this over and maybe raise up the bass notes. Let's do G sharp and then put the F sharp here. Yeah, so we have a little bit of a transition note. Yeah, that's cool. I like it so far. We need to switch up this part and this E. I don't think the E, it doesn't complement the G sharp well. And then we can have some reverb fading out or something. I'm imagining some weird sound design. Yeah, I like that. Okay, I'm hearing this like weird sine lead in my head. It's hard to explain. It's like the classic UK garage organ, but a little bit different. So let me try and create it here. It's a sine wave, and then I think it has some distortion on it. A little bit. It's kind of a softer sound with some noise. Maybe a slight filter to make it a little bit more soft. And then a ton of reverb and delay, or maybe just reverb. Then we're going to duplicate this and we'll make this down 1 semitone, so +3, and we can place it here. That way it actually matches the chord progression. And then finally, I want this to have final note. And then I want to change this preset. I'm not a fan of it. There's this particular one I got, this one. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, let's stop the timer. About 6 minutes here. I just wanted to see how long it would take to get the main idea down, because we need to just rapid fire it, get as inspired as possible. And then you'll notice you start to get all of these ideas rushing through your head, usually. And if not, then just keep going with it. Just keep trying random stuff and experimenting. So what if we take this organ sound and kind of make it offbeat? And then maybe for this one. Okay, yeah, this is cool. Let's get all of these bass hits on a mixer and then cut the lows out. And then just for the extra reinforcement, I think this needs a synth pluck or something like that that follows the chord progression. So let's get a classic detuned saw pluck filter. As you can tell, I'm just following the rhythm of the lead. That's the most natural. So now we have pretty much the main idea with a couple more sounds. And now we can just really start to build it out. So let's get a kick, paste this on every beat here. And I split these sounds up so we can arrange them now. So really quickly, I want to see what it sounds like in different keys. Let's try maybe -2. Yeah, that's decent. What if we do +4? Yeah, I like that. A sharp minor. This is where it sounds the most emotional to me, so we'll keep it. Now we can start to get some drums up in here. So I'll get a clap, maybe take this loop here. I really like this clap from this loop, so I'll just cut it out and put it in the project. What if I take this down an octave instead? Yeah, that's a little bit better. I want it to be more low-key. Speed this up to like 138, why not? And now we can start to add some hi-hats because this is lacking some rhythm. So what I'm gonna do is just take a random closed hi-hat, maybe this one, and then I'm gonna reverse it. This is a trick I like to do in all my videos. We can make the classic two-step hi-hat pattern and even variate some of the volumes on these notes. Then from there we can apply a little bit of reverb and then render it out. Cool, let's render that out. And then we can just line it up with the project. It sounds really good. Maybe change the pitch of it. Cool, that's the first hi-hat. Let's layer it with another one. So maybe an open hi-hat, give it some contrast. And then we can take this one and just spam it throughout the entire pattern. It's kind of a cool rhythm. But these hi-hats kind of feel stale. They lack more rhythm. So what we're going to do is go to the graph editor, vary the volumes or the velocities of each of these notes, as well as the panning. So it's going to pan from the left to the right speaker. And we'll do the same for every single one of these. Then we can just get all of these on a mixer. And for this last hi-hat here, the rapid one, I'm going to get a volume shaper box on it. And we can make a shape that looks like this just to give it a little bit more rhythm. So now it's kind of fading in. What if we take this hi-hat and apply some Valhalla delay to give it a unique texture? That's cool. I'm actually going to do this one more time with a different hi-hat. There we go. Render this out, and then of course line it up with the project. On this hi-hat, I can almost hear a tone, and I think it's right here. Yeah, that's a pretty painful frequency, so I'm actually going to dip that. Just a little bit, that's perfect. So the next thing is the track is lacking a bass line. And by the way, my mindset behind this is just going where the track feels like it's going, but at the same time, just looking at it logically. Because if we listen to it, you'll notice that it's missing bass frequencies. Therefore, add a bass instrument. So let's do that. We can make a classic saw bass for now. Yeah, that's fine. And of course, you can hear that I'm just following the rhythm of the lead. So now I'm going to separate this bass line from the synth so that we have it separate. And also this bass line is very analog. It sounds kind of analog. So what I want to do is layer it with an analog sounding bass once again. So for that, we'll do some diva and just see what we can make from here. So that's pretty cool. I'll copy and paste it over. And sometimes on a different bass sound, your bass is too low. So we could just take it up an octave because that sounds a little too low. Another important thing, we can take the velocities down. I'll press Alt X and just turn all of them down a little bit so that bass is softer. This bass could be a little softer. And let's add back in this pluck synth we made earlier. Except I want to change it a little bit, make it more chill. Because it's too in your face right now. Give it a little distortion, maybe a phaser. And I feel like this synth could be a little longer. Now here's the thing, many producers face the problem of, okay, I have the main idea, how do I build around this? Where do I go from here? What process do I follow? I feel lost because there's just this big empty space in my project and I'm not sure how to build out to that. Or even I can't seem to find any sounds that fit with this main idea. And I understand, like, all these racing thoughts start coming to you, which sometimes leads to you just closing the project and never finishing it. So why is it that like 1 out of every 10 tracks actually flow so easily and you just instantly finish it? Well, to me, the songs that flowed easily weren't always the best ideas. This isn't a perfect idea right here. They were the ideas that I kind of knew what to do next. Because think about it, you create an idea, it has potential, and then you have an idea of where to take it next. So then you kind of know how to already complete it. But with most tracks, you're just left with this big empty space. And so to make sure this happens to us less, we're going to just kickstart the idea of the rest of the track just like we did with this main idea. Because it's like we can't water the seed before we plant the seed. We need to plant the seed first, which means lay down the idea, and then water it, which is just producing it more, adding more layers, etc. Don't overthink about it. Just plant the seed first. So let's do that real quick. What I'm gonna do is make a blank space on the left here, because of course this is where the intro, the verse, etc. will be. And then we're just gonna plant the seed. We're gonna take one element from our drop or our main idea and put it before itself over here. I did make a video with this tip, but we're gonna go more in depth here. So we could take these chords, for example, and place them outside of the main idea. That way we've already planted the seed. Now we just have to water it. This could be replacing the sound, introducing more layers, effects, all of that. It's not about having the perfect idea or sounds to build out the project. It's just about reducing the friction. So we have the seed planted, let's water it. I like these chords right here, but I'm not sure how I feel about the sound, especially for an intro. It's a little bit too rhythmic. So let's take the chords, I'll take just the first ones here, and we'll replace it with a different sound. Same exact chords. Also, these are 2 notes, so they're technically not chords. I'm gonna make them chords by adding the 5th. And let's just replace this with some kind of pad or something. We'll go with this, why not? Another thing is having a reference track. This is the one I'm going to use right here. It's called Better With You by Daniel Allen in Port London. Okay, where else can we take this? Once again, we're going to rapid fire some more ideas. We'll add this bass. Cool, that's the intro right there. Then I'm gonna copy and paste this over to the other section. Now I kind of want to go back to the main idea real quick and just refine it up, make sure it's all good. So let's do that. I'm gonna add a ride here. What if we automate the pitch bend on this main lead? Just little details like making the pitch slide down and then up again. We can do something even more weird like this. Maybe we can layer this lead, give it some more texture. I'm gonna start structuring this out kind of intuitively because I want this lead to play right here as like a preview into the drop. Okay, so we have the intro with the Reese, and then it cuts into just this lead part where it previews the lead for the drop. I think we should start layering this intro a little bit more. So we could do like a city ambience or something. This one will work perfectly. Then let's actually move all of this stuff over a few more bars because I want a little bit more space for the intro to breathe. Maybe we could take this pad and just layer it with something. I kind of want to give the listener a preview of the lead, so we can take just a part of it and make an extra version of it, and this can play in the background of the intro. So if we want it in the background, we can just EQ it with this band pass shape, a high pass and a low pass. Nice, and let's layer this with another pluck. sounds perfect. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I'm starving, so I'm gonna go eat real quick and probably come back to this in like an hour, and we can finish it up, we can create the rest of the track, and then go from there. So see you on the other side. Alright, we're back, and it's actually the next day. So unfortunately, I didn't end up finishing the rest of the project last night because I ended up getting back at like 3 a.m. after a very late studio session. So let's continue. I'm gonna listen to what we have. So I really want to just develop this idea more before we build out the rest of the track because I have a few ideas for it. I think we could take this in more of a trance style direction. So first of all, I want to change the key to G sharp minor because it's an A sharp minor. I'm a little bit indecisive when it comes to the key, but that's okay. I like to just shift it around and see what emotions we can give it. All of these can come down by -2 semitones. And the next thing I want to do is edit this lead because I want it to be more upfront. It's very plucky right now. So let's increase the sustain on this and decrease the release. Yeah, that's perfect. And then I have this particular effects chain that I made like 3 years ago. It is this one right here. I don't know why I called it Con 2. So we can apply this and I like how it sounds. It just sounds very upfront. So it's a little bit too harsh right now. We can do some adjusting. And then I want to switch up this additional layer with something else. So we can go to Moon Boy's presets maybe. Next thing I want to do is switch up this kick for something a little bit more harder. And you might be like, well, dude, you're completely switching up the vibe of the track now. I mean, that's just where it's taking me, to be honest. Maybe this one right here. The reason I'm kind of switching it up now is because last night when I was driving back at like 2 a.m. I was listening to some trance tracks, and I've never really made trance on this channel. I don't have much experience with it, but I like the sound, so we might as well do that. Yeah, I already like where this is going a little bit more. The house was cool, but it was a little bit more generic sounding in my opinion. What if we take these claps, put an OTT on them to glue them together and bring up its character, and then some reverb after it, and then maybe adding an additional clap layer to give it some more texture, of course. So maybe just this snare right here with the lows cut. And we can bring up the high cut on the reverb just to give it more brightness and do a little low cut. Cool, I'll just make some adjustments on the bass. So I have this one preset here, sounds like this. Maybe we'll switch up the pattern a little bit. Let's put this on a mixer. And maybe the melody could also be switched up. I still want to follow the essence of the original one, but I want to make it a little bit different because the original is a little bit messy. And of course, these can follow the new bass notes. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's definitely give this a little bit of sub bass. So we can just do the classic triangle wave with a little bit of noise, some distortion, and make it kind of plucky, dynamic. And we'll just copy the bass notes from before. So I'm wondering, what if we let this bass hit first and then the synths come in? So we can cut out this and maybe this. I feel like that's kind of unique. I've never really heard that in a trance track before. Maybe it does exist, I don't know. Alright, so I was experimenting a little bit. I did some organization on the drums. This is what we got so far. It almost has this very harsh, messy kind of vibe to it, and I kind of like that, but I want to do it in a way that's tasteful and sounds intentional without it actually sounding like I just mixed and mastered it bad, if that makes sense. So let's build out this part once again because we're trying to get unstuck here. Let me grab the same lead from before and I'm gonna duplicate it and put it on a mixer channel that has a little bit less processing because this is very processed and very messy and reverby. So I'll take this mixer track and paste it right here, and we'll put the copy and pasted synth on this mixer track. And we can just dial back on some of the effects. So I have a ton of compression. I'll dial back on the delay as well as the reverb. So I want this little bass hit to hit first because I think this is really unique. I've never heard it in a trance track before. And actually, I want each of these bass notes to hit without the lead playing. And then we need another bass note here. Except we need to go to the serum patch and turn this a semitone up, I think. And we'll put it right here. So this is going to be part of the build-up, and then I want it to build up into this drop over here. So once again, we're taking parts from the main idea that we had, taking them, putting them in the empty space of the track just to get the seed planted, and then we're just watering it. We're producing it more, layering it, etc. That way we don't have that stuck mindset where we're just stuck in the 8-bar loop forever. So what we'll do is fade this in with a low pass filter, this synth. I'm gonna drag the city ambience over here as well. And maybe we could fade in these bass hits with the low pass. So I'll apply them all to their own group because some of them have individual effects, and then we can put the low pass. And now it's just a matter of adding more details and then thinking of ways to tie each section together. So of course, for the transition between this part and the main idea, the drop, we can do a little build up. I like to take an 808 snare for some reason, just a classic 808 snare, and spam it like this. And then we can fade the snare in with a low pass filter, some reverb, delay, etc. And one more trick I like to do for this 808 snare fill is take a Valhalla delay. And I really like this ghost falling snare texture. So we can automate the mix and turn this up slowly. The lead is definitely getting drowned out, but we can fix that in a little bit. We need to focus on getting out of the loop. I might switch up this bass actually. Could probably add some background pads and atmospheres in this section, so let's go ahead and do that. What if we keep this ambient part for later in the track after the drop instead, and just start the track with the beat? So maybe we have just a slightly softer version of the kick, just so there's a little bit of contrast between the intro and the main part of the track, because we don't want the intro to feel as powerful as the main part. And even just starting out the track with the softer version of the bass that we have later. So we could either do like a rolling bass or maybe an offbeat bass like this. And a lot of the time, some of the elements that tie everything together are just simple crash transitions, tambourine transitions, etc. So just a simple tambourine like this, we're going to apply a ton of reverb on it, then reverse it, and it can make a really cool transition. So tons of reverb. Let's render this out, then we can reverse it. And this will act as a nice transition between the sections. So maybe right here. And I might just copy and paste this a few times in different sections. now we have a decent structure started. Intro definitely needs stuff to fill it up. So what I'm gonna do is take a piece of that main lead and make some type of ARP or something inspired by it. So let's take a piece of this, or maybe just the whole thing. Maybe we just repeat this part over and over again, but change the bass notes. I'll delete the F sharp as well. Find some kind of pluck or something for this. This can be an ambient lead in the background, so once again, a ton of reverb and then an EQ to just tuck it into the background. Let's make another background ARP with different notes, something like this. And this one's gonna be completely warped. Let's apply a shaper box to it. And then let's apply reverb and then portal. But I'm gonna apply portal before the shaper box, so that way the shaper box catches the portal. Sweet, I'm happy with it so far. We've escaped the 8-bar loop. There's definitely a few more details that we can add to it. So I'm gonna take a break for a little bit. My ears hurt listening to this over and over again, and then we'll come back to it. Fortunately, yesterday when I recorded the second part of this video, I had another studio session with some friends in my studio this time. So I wasn't really able to record too much, but I did add some very minor details last night at like 2 a.m. So let me show you. First of all, we have these texture drum loops. Just adding some texture in the intro. We have a little impacts and effects. It's very small stuff like that. I added back this pad in the intro section. I updated the build-up section with some crashes, some effects, etc. And then right before the drop hits, we have this fill with the sub drop. And then I'm really proud of this part right here. It's a snare, like a very weird tonal percussive snare that fades out in volume. And then we have this Prida style snare. It's very 2014 sounding, but I think it's cool. I like it. Might as well go back to the classics. I'll play a little preview of the drop. I'm really proud of this part particularly, where the synths cut out and this bass womp sound like plays. I think it's pretty unique, so I'm proud of that. And I'm not gonna lie, I was struggling a little bit to finish this track, which is kind of ironic based on the video topic, but this just proves that the formula that I showed you works, because at the very beginning, you may have noticed that we did this house type of idea. The track sounded completely different from what it sounds like now, and then produced it from there. We watered the seed, right? But we at least planted the seed first and then watered it. You can't expect a giant tree to grow if you haven't even planted the seed yet. And from there, we developed the idea, we watered the seed, we produced more of it, and now we have this. Almost completely different from when we started, but it still has that same core sound. And when I started doing this regularly, I stopped just finishing like 1 out of every 10 tracks. I made it a repeatable process that I do every single time. And now I can confidently say I finish at least 9 out of every 10 tracks. Even if it's not perfect, I still finish it because that's just a value that I have. And so if you look at your tracks and your projects in this way, I guarantee you'll finish 10 times more. And the crazy thing about this is you might be like, well, doesn't this kill creativity? Because all you're doing is just moving super fast and finishing the project. And no, it doesn't. It actually unlocks more of it, because with this process, you're never stuck in the what now phase. You're moving, you're making decisions, you're following the energy of the track, you're moving fast, and that's what I think this whole video is about. Anyway, let's listen to the final result. want this project as well as work one-on-one with me to take your music to a professional level, feel free to check that link in the description. I'm giving the project and all the projects on my YouTube channel to all of my clients. I appreciate you for watching, and if you want to, you can of course click the subscribe button. It would help me retire my parents, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.